Growing up in the 1970s meant more time outside, bonding with family, and simpler pleasures.
Hey, he said it.
But today's kids are more connected globally, learning new skills quickly through technology.
You have to. Some people will be on their phone, you know, to eat a meal. A lot of people don't even go to sleep without technology these days. That's just how different things are.
Teens would often gather at each other's houses to share music, talk about the latest hits, and bond over their shared love for bands like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin.
Concerts back in the day would have just hit way different because you didn't have phones. Like, you'd actually have to be in the moment to experience it. That's just a different experience. But yeah, to imagine someone calling me and I don't know who it is, that's kind of scary to me. Alright, today your fellow Gen Z Brit is going to be checking out 1970s things that are no longer allowed. And this is coming from Concealed Secrets, a channel that actually, it's my first video I think I've checked out from them. So I'm excited to see their rendition on this. Obviously, if you keep it up with the channel, you know, I've done quite a few of these kinds of videos going back and seeing what things were like. And it's always interesting to see just how much depth these videos go into. And maybe there's things in this that I might not have came across yet. Speaking of which, guys, I'm doing some bonus content on the Patreon for those guys that aren't aware. Posting new movie reactions, album reviews, and sitcom reviews every week. I've got, at the moment, around 50 plus exclusive bits of content on there at the moment. So if you guys are interested in getting that extra dose of nostalgia, as well as Gen Z perspective on a lot of these classics that I'm showing you guys on the screen, and I'll definitely recommend checking out the Patreon, linked in the description below. Of course, it'll be great to support the channel, guys, if you love my content. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, definitely do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see more of these videos and you love my content, as well as don't forget to like the video as well. Get these videos pushing the algorithm. Comment down below, let me know what things you guys want me to check out, as well as it will let me know that you guys are enjoying the videos. And yeah, guys, with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
Remember when kids could ride their bikes for hours without anyone worrying? Or how seatbelts were more of a suggestion than a rule? Growing up in the 70s was a different world. A world without constant supervision, smartphones, or helicopter parenting. Children ran free, TV shows weren't streamed but scheduled, and the rules seemed much more relaxed. But as time passed, many of these practices quietly disappeared, replaced by new standards and safety rules. So, what exactly did the 70s kids do that today's kids will never experience?
Like, these clips gotta be from some movie. Like, were you guys actually just dancing around in circles in a playground? Like, I know when I was a kid, we was playing like it or like tag, playing bulldog, hide and seek. But what is this dancing around in circles, like holding hands? Like, what is that?
Replaced by new standards and safety rules.
Like this clip here, what
exactly did the 70s kids do that today's kids will never experience? 70s. Join us as we take a nostalgic trip back and find out.
Some of these clips got to be from like the UK.
Prank calls were the original fun before caller ID ruined it. Do you remember huddling around the landline, giggling with your friends, ready to make a prank call?
Wow.
Is your refrigerator running? Was a classic. Prank calls were an innocent thrill back then, long before caller ID was a thing. No smartphones to ruin the fun. No names flashing up to give you away. The thrill came from not knowing if you'd get caught. But with technology today, prank calling has pretty much died out. It's hard to imagine a time when tricking someone on the phone was the highlight of a weekend. But that was life in the 70s. The golden age.
Wow, that's incredible. That's so interesting. I wasn't actually deep in the fact that, back then, no caller IDs. When people called you, you wouldn't actually know who it was until they like introduce themselves. That's something that's actually quite foreign to me. I was like, you know, when I think back in time, I'm thinking things that like don't exist because I'm not used. Like, obviously, I didn't grow up in those times. But yeah, to imagine someone calling me and I don't know who it is, that's kind of scary to me. And then, but it makes sense for this time, and I can imagine how you can definitely get away with more prank calls back in the day. They'll be so easier to do. Yeah, man, and that's just different on those rotary
highlight
phones.
Of a weekend. But that was life in the 70s. The golden age of toilet papering. Toilet papering houses was practically an art form in the 1970s.
Toilet paper
armed with rolls of toilet paper, kids would sneak out at night to cover trees and rooftops in streams of white.
Why?
The aftermath looked like some kind of abstract art. It was harmless, rebellious fun. These days, not so much. With security cameras and Ring doorbells everywhere, you'd be caught before you could even toss the first roll.
Right.
The modern world just isn't built for these kinds of pranks.
People used to do that.
What was once a favorite pastime for kids has now been swapped for
insane.
prank videos on social media. Much less creative, wouldn't you agree? And then there was
a lot of toilet paper.
Riding bikes after school. School's out, and back in the 1970s, that meant one thing: hopping on your bike and cruising the neighborhood.
Right.
You didn't need a plan. You just pedaled around with your friends until the streetlights came on. It was a kind of freedom today's kids don't really get to experience.
Nope.
No GPS tracking apps, no constant check-ins with parents, just you, your bike, and endless possibilities.
Different times.
That sense of independence is something many kids
Evil
today
Knievel
may
ramps,
never know.
Of course. I know apparently a lot of you guys are doing these Evil Knievel ramps. So, yeah, shout out to you guys, man. Yeah,
that sense of independence is something many kids today may never know, as modern technology and more cautious parenting have replaced these carefree after-school adventures, the great outdoors. You see, in the 70s, kids didn't need organized activities or screens to keep them entertained.
That's true.
The outdoors was the only playground they needed. From dawn until dusk, kids played outside, running, climbing, inventing games, and letting their imaginations run wild. Today, scheduled playdates and digital devices have taken over. The wild adventures that once defined childhood are fading into memories, replaced by structured and, let's be honest, a bit less exciting indoor fun. The freedom to roam, get dirty, and explore on your own terms is a thing of the past. No helmets.
And that's something that I can't really relate to, but I can imagine how if you grew up during this time and that was like, especially your thing during childhood, I can imagine, like seeing it fade into the past nowadays can kind of be a bit like disheartening. I wonder if any of you guys ever just walk past some parks or some forests and it just gives you flashbacks. I definitely know nowadays, I've seen recent clips of what like some like parks used to look like back in the 70s or some these abandoned places, and back then they had so much life. But then nowadays, like all of these kind of open spaces are kind of just run down, graffitied everywhere, and just looking more like desolate, like just nowhere near fun and life filled as they once were, which I think is definitely a showing of the sign of the times, man.
Terms is a thing of the past. No helmets, no fear. Back in the 1970s, riding a bike wasn't just about getting around. It was a symbol of freedom. And guess what? Helmets weren't even a thought. The wind in your hair and the thrill of riding far from home with no adults around made it all the better. No GPS, no tracking, just pure adventure.
That's just scary.
Compare that to today, where helmets, supervision, and constant communication with parents are the norm. It's a completely different experience now. Kids today have more safety gear, but less of that carefree spirit that made biking so exciting. Parents,
I'm a testimony. It's only until I started going back in time to check out these videos where I started to really see, okay, this is what it used to be like. And I started to realize, oh, okay, things really were different. Because I'm only used to what I know. And yeah, I guess I could never really appreciate the way a lot of older people could, or let's say people older than me could. You know, Gen X's and so on, so forth.
Were less blamed for everything. In the 70s, parenting was a lot more relaxed. If a kid misbehaved, the general attitude was that it was just part of growing up. People didn't point fingers at the parents right away. Kids were expected to learn responsibility on their own. Nowadays, though, if a child steps out of line, there's often an assumption that it's the parent's fault. This shift reflects how our ideas about parenting have changed, with more focus on helicopter parenting and constant involvement in kids' lives.
Yeah.
Trampolines without nets.
It's like almost
if you had a trampoline in your backyard in the 1970s, you were living the dream. But there was one catch: no safety nets. That's right, kids would bounce around with nothing to stop them from flying off the edge. Sure, there were a few more bumps and bruises, but that was part of the fun. Today, trampolines come with nets, padding, and all sorts of safety features, which makes them safer, but in some ways, less exciting. Back then, you had to be extra careful, but it was worth it for the thrill. going to camp without a stack of paperwork.
Like, you can't, there's nothing, like, memories nowadays, like, from childhood don't go as far. Because I think there's something about getting injured or hurt. Like, obviously, you know, stay safe, you know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily endorse, I'm not endorsing it, but it's to say, if you were around this time and you got those bruises and cuts, like, those just give you memories, man, that just stick with you forever. I mean, it could traumatize some, but yeah, I guess it's part of the game, right? Not everybody makes it, survival of the fittest.
Summer camp in the 1970s was all about fun, not filling out endless forms. Parents would sign 1 or 2 papers, and that was it. No
Crazy.
long health checklists, no extensive waivers, just pack your bags and off you went. Comparing it with these days, camp comes with a lot more paperwork. It's all for safety, of course, but it's hard not to miss the simpler times when heading to camp was as easy as grabbing your backpack and a sleeping bag. Attending the neighborhood school. Right. You see, back in the day, most kids just went to the closest school to their house. The idea of researching schools or trying to get into the best one wasn't really a thing.
Oh, wow.
You went where your friends went, and that was that. This built strong community ties since everyone in the neighborhood went to the same place. These days, parents often stress about finding the best school, but in the 70s, it was all about going to your local school and being part of your neighborhood, getting in trouble on the bus. If you acted up on the school bus in the 1970s, you didn't blame the bus driver. You knew you'd be the one getting in trouble. The bus driver's job was to get you to school, not to deal with discipline. If a kid caused trouble, they faced consequences like detention or even getting kicked off the bus. These days, it seems like there's more pressure on bus drivers to manage behavior, but back then it was clear. The kid was responsible for their actions. Metal lunch pails were a thing. School lunches in the 70s were a little more fun. Instead of plastic or insulated lunch bags, kids carried metal lunch pails. These pails often had superheroes, cartoon characters, or TV shows on them, making lunchtime a little more personal and exciting. Inside, you'd find the usual sandwich, fruit, and maybe a sweet treat. Today's insulated lunch bags might keep things colder, but there's something about those metal pails that screams nostalgia. Misbehaving meant facing angry parents. Did you know that in the 1970s, if you got in trouble at school, you weren't as worried about the teachers as you were about your parents? When you got home, you'd have to face their disappointment, and that was often punishment enough. Teachers expected parents to handle their kids' behavior at home. These days, schools and parents are more likely to work together on discipline. But in the 70s, it was all on the parents to set things right. An F in school meant a serious talk.
For sure.
Getting an F in the 1970s wasn't something you could easily brush off. Your parents would sit you down and give you a serious talk about the importance of school and doing your best. It wasn't just about the grade. It was about showing that you were trying. These sermons were meant to get you back on track and teach you that hard work mattered.
Right.
Today, parents might be more involved with teachers in solving problems, but in the 70s, it was usually up to you to improve. Sports were everywhere.
A lot more responsibility.
Sports back then were a big deal. Whether it was organized teams at school or just pickup games in the neighborhood, kids were always outside playing something. Sports weren't just for fun. They taught teamwork, discipline, and staying active. Nowadays, there's more structure and sometimes even pressure around youth sports. But in the 70s, it was all about enjoying the game and hanging out with your friends. Whether you were winning or losing, it didn't matter as long as you were out there playing. Vacations.
Yeah, like the fun is probably been stripped out a little bit, especially when it comes to more organized sports, like more structure around it. There's more awareness of paths you can take, like, you know, projects, whatever the thing, you hear that all the time. So yeah, it can become more contrived, like more gender built, but yeah. So I can see the fun of it, like when you strip it down to its core and just having fun and not really caring about the outcome. Yeah, that part of it isn't there as much naturally, or there's not much room for that as much, right? With everything going on.
And family adventures.
That's interesting.
In the 1970s, family vacations were all about exploring the outdoors, whether it was camping in a national park, hiking through the mountains, or spending time in a lakeside cabin, these trips were an opportunity for families to escape everyday life. Kids would fish, swim, and roast marshmallows around the campfire, while parents enjoyed the peace that nature brought. These moments weren't just about fun. They helped families bond. Being surrounded by nature and away from distractions made these memories priceless, reminding families that the simple joys of life often come from the world around us.
Right. And back then, they didn't have phones like that as well. I can imagine kids nowadays, like myself, is like going outside on a holiday, especially a family holiday trip, can be so much more taxing because all you want to do is just go on your phone and just watch some TikToks and, you know what I'm saying, go through some YouTube videos or something. But, you know, you're not really as... It's harder to get a kid nowadays to embrace the outside world than it probably would have been back then. I wonder if any of you guys probably agree with that.
Joys of life often come from the world around us. Birthday parties were a whole lot of fun. Birthday parties back then were something kids looked forward to all year. These celebrations were big, with friends, family, and lots of laughter. Themed parties were popular, with kids dressing up as clowns, superheroes, or characters from their favorite TV shows.
Of course.
Games like Pin the Tail on the Donkey or musical chairs filled the day. And of course, no birthday party was complete without a homemade cake. These parties weren't just about the cake and games, though. They were about creating memories and sharing special moments with loved ones. A scrape or two.
When I was young, to be fair,
no
I had
big deal.
birthdays like that.
For kids in the 70s, getting a few scrapes and bruises during playtime was just part of the fun.
Of course it was.
Whether they were climbing trees or riding bikes, these small injuries were seen as badges of honor. Parents didn't overreact to a skinned knee. They simply cleaned it up, slapped on a bandage, and sent the kids back out to play. This was a time when playtime meant adventure, and a few bumps along the way were all part of growing up and learning about resilience. The best part of the weekend. Saturdays in the 70s.
Like, I mean, how do you, like, sometimes it makes me wonder, like, especially with how things are way more police now. Kind of, there's a little bit that takes the fun out of it, but then at the same time, you understand why, but it kind of just makes you appreciate this time for what it was and the types of memories you could create from, or you could build from environments like that you can't really get nowadays. That's just
resilience. The best
you
part
just
of the
can't do
weekend.
stuff like that nowadays.
Saturdays in the 70s had one
so
highlight for every kid. Cartoons. Shows like Scooby-Doo, The Flintstones, and Tom and Jerry were the stars of the weekend. Children would wake up early, grab a bowl of cereal, and sit in front of the TV to watch their favorite animated characters. These cartoons were more than just entertainment. They gave kids a chance to unwind, laugh, and enjoy their favorite part of the week. Plus, it was something to look forward to before the school week started again. Friends made every day better. Having friends over in the 70s was a big deal. Whether it was after school or on weekends, kids would gather to play games, ride bikes, or simply watch TV together. There was always something fun to do, whether it was building forts, playing board games, or just hanging out. These playdates were a way for kids to strengthen friendships, share laughter, and enjoy being young.
Right.
And let's not forget how a simple afternoon with friends could turn into the most memorable day. Teenagers and their record
Simpler
collections.
Times, man.
Now, if you were a teenager in the 70s, you probably had a prized record collection.
Of course.
Music was everything.
Look at that vinyl.
From rock to disco, teens would spend hours listening to their favorite bands. Vinyl records weren't just music, they were a lifestyle. Teens would often gather at each other's houses to share music, talk about the latest hits, and bond over their shared love for bands like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
It was a time when music brought people together, creating connections that lasted a lifetime. Sleepover.
Yeah, and I can imagine concerts back in the day would have just hit way different because you didn't have phones. Like, you'd actually have to be in the moment to experience it. That's just a different experience. Like, if you guys can let me know what like concerts were like before phones and stuff, I'll greatly appreciate it. I don't know why I said it like that. But yeah, because that's just a whole different experience, man. Whole different experience. And then it's the vinyl records, like different times, man.
Creating connections that lasted a lifetime.
Sometimes I wish I could just teleport.
Sleepovers were filled with adventure.
Or time travel more so.
A sleepover at a friend's house in the 70s was an exciting adventure. Kids would pack their sleeping bags, bring their favorite toys, and prepare for a night full of fun. From watching movies to telling ghost stories and staying up way past bedtime, sleepovers were a way for kids to bond and share secrets. It wasn't just about staying up late. It was about creating lifelong memories with friends. Family dinners meant more than just eating. In the 70s, family dinners weren't rushed affairs. They were moments when everyone sat down together, shared their day, and truly connected. Without the distraction of smartphones or the TV, these meals were about conversation. Whether talking about school, work, or current events, family dinners gave everyone a chance to feel heard and supported. This daily tradition fostered close family bonds and created a sense of unity that stayed with children as they grew up. Chores like...
And I can imagine, and give it another 20, 30 years, I feel like family dinners might start dying out. Especially now when us millennials and Gen Zers are going to start becoming parents. If these aren't things that we're really like integrating in our own day-to-day lives as much, then, you know, that's kind of thing that you don't, it would be less likely you'd pass on to your kids. Because even then, like, some people can't even eat without watching something these days. That's just how different things are. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, like, some people will be on their phone, you know, to eat a meal, or that's when that's how they used to doing it. Or a lot of people don't even go to sleep without technology. Somebody's got to play something or watch something. But yeah, times are just really, really changing. It's
dishwashing taught responsibility.
Wow.
Did you know that washing dishes wasn't just a chore in the 70s? It was a way to teach responsibility. After family meals, kids were often expected to help clean up, and that meant scrubbing dishes. While it might not have been the most exciting task, it was a way for children to learn the importance of contributing to the household.
She's standing on a chair.
Plus, washing dishes together often led to moments of laughter and teamwork, turning a simple chore into quality family time.
Yeah, man.
Grocery day was a family event. Believe it or not, grocery shopping was fun in the 70s.
Okay.
Families would head to the store together, and kids would get excited about picking out their favorite snacks or helping their parents choose items. Grocery day was more than just a chore. It was a chance for the family to spend time together. Children loved steering the shopping cart or pretending it was a race car. Plus, with all the free samples and demonstrations, there was always something to look forward to on these trips. Rewards for good behavior at the grocery store. Speaking of grocery, for kids in the 70s, behaving well during a grocery trip often meant a special reward. Parents would let their children pick out a treat from the shelves as a way to say, "Good job." Whether it was candy, a favorite snack, or even a small toy, this little act of independence made kids feel grown up. It also taught them the value of good behavior, while making the shopping experience more enjoyable for everyone. Affordable treats were everywhere. The 70s were a time when snacks and treats were affordable, making it easy for parents to buy little indulgences for their kids without breaking the bank. From candies to chips, the shelves were filled with affordable delights. This meant kids could enjoy their favorite treats more often, and it brought joy to families who didn't have to worry about overspending. It was a time when small pleasures were within reach for everyone. Station wagons were a thing.
Today.
If you lived in the 70s, chances are you rode in a station wagon at some point. These cars were famous for their spacious interiors, making them perfect for family road trips or grocery runs.
Definitely.
With room for everyone and everything, station wagons were like rolling living rooms. Families would pile in, and with their large back seats and rear-facing third rows, there was plenty of space for adventure.
No seatbelts.
These cars became a symbol of family life and the memories created on the road.
Mate,
Snacks in the car used to be a road trip tradition. Road trips in the 70s often involved a lot of snacks. Dads especially were known to ask for candy or treats while driving, whether it was a stop at a gas station for a quick snack or passing around candy in the car. These moments made road trips even more fun. It wasn't just about the destination. It was about the little moments of joy along the way. Outdoor fashion was all about freedom. Kids in the 70s dressed for freedom when it came to outdoor activities like biking or skateboarding. Jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers were the go-to outfits, perfect for playing outside.
I can imagine.
With loose-fitting clothes that allowed them to move freely, Kids felt comfortable whether they were cruising down the street or at the local skate park.
You must have some
Safety
flexible
gear
jeans.
came later, but in the early days, it was all about the feeling of the wind in their hair and the open road ahead.
Well, joggers not like much of a thing during these times. I can imagine if you're trying to dress comfortably, like you'd want to get a pair of joggers, right? Not jeans. But from what I'm aware, I feel like there was some branded jeans that were way more like stretchy or like back in the day. I don't know. You guys let me know, because
Forts were a world of their own.
Oh wow.
Forts were sacred spaces for kids in the 70s. Whether they built them indoors with blankets and pillows or outside with sticks and leaves, forts were places where imagination thrived. These cozy hideaways became castles, pirate ships, or secret headquarters, and inside kids could share stories, plan adventures, or just enjoy a bit of independence. These private little worlds gave children a sense of ownership and creativity, creating memories that would last forever. The magic of the Sears Christmas catalog. The Sears Christmas catalog was a dream come true for kids in the 70s. Filled with toys, games, and holiday treasures, it was the perfect tool for making wish lists. Families would gather around, flipping through the pages to plan their holiday shopping. For kids, it was a magical moment, picturing the toys they hoped to find under the Christmas tree. From dolls to board games, the catalog sparked excitement and made the holiday season even more special.
Yes, popularity.
In the end, children are shaped by the environment they grow up in. Things were different back then. Growing up in the 1970s meant more time outside, bonding with family, and simpler pleasures.
Hey, he said it.
But today's kids are more connected globally, learning new skills quickly through technology, and have more tools for self-expression. It's all about finding balance, choosing the right mix of real-world experiences and digital engagement. So it's not about whether one era was better than the other, but recognizing that each has its unique advantages. What do you think? Were the 70s a better time for kids than today? And if you were to choose,
good question,
which era would you want to be in as a child?
That's a great question. Look, I would love to get the answers of those same questions for you guys watching this video, man. Because that is so true. I feel like at the end he summed it up quite well. Like, I wouldn't... Obviously, every generation has its own differences, and there's pros and cons to every generation. But within those generations, there's a beauty in that, because we all grow and mold ourselves in ways that are unique and could be beneficial in ways that, you know, other generations may not be able to do as much. I guess if you grew up during this time, I think when it comes to making memories, like back then, you could probably make memories that would last longer. Whereas now, there's so much information that everything's kind of like a blur. So yeah, I definitely think there's definitely a balance, and I would love to know what you guys have to say about that. Maybe some things that you liked or disliked about your generation growing up, or maybe how things are now. I would also love to know that as well. Do you prefer things back then? Do you prefer things now? I'd love to know what you guys think about that in the comments below. But if you made it to this point, comment down a green heart. So I know who my real ones are, who made it to this point in the video. You guys who watched all the way through, you guys are the reds of the real. Stick through to the end. Shout out to you guys. I always love to show my appreciation at the end of every video, because you guys are appreciated. Of course, don't forget to like the video before you head out. And if you want to see more of these like nostalgic throwbacks and compilations, that's, you know, going over some of the things that were popular or common during these times, or that are no longer allowed, then definitely consider checking out playlist. I'll link at the end of the video, of course. And yeah, guys, look, with that being said, I've been your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.